Fox Sports just connected the Raiders to one of the NFL's most underrated receivers. And honestly, when I first saw it, I thought it was just another clickbait headline. But the more I dug into this situation, the more I realized this might not be as impossible as it sounds. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover Raiders news here on this channel. Before we get into who we're talking about, though, I want you to tell me something in the comments. And be honest, how much would you be willing to give up right now to land a legitimate #1 receiver who's proven he can produce with any quarterback? Because depending on how you answer that question, this rumor might get you pretty excited. So, Fox Sports just dropped an article connecting Terry McLaurin to the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, I get it. We've been down this road before with big-name receiver rumors. Remember all the DK Metcalf talk? Remember when everyone thought we were getting Calvin Ridley? Hell, we actually pulled off the Davante Adams trade when nobody saw it coming. So, when people say, never gonna happen, I just think back to that September day when Adams became a Raider and remind myself that in this league, you truly never know. But let's be real about what we're dealing with here. Terry McLaurin isn't just any receiver. This dude has been putting up numbers that most guys can only dream about. And he's been doing it with a revolving door of quarterbacks, coaches, and offensive coordinators in Washington. Think about that for a second. The man had 13 touchdowns last season working with a rookie quarterback in Jayden Daniels. 13 touchdowns. That's not luck, that's skill and consistency. Here's what really gets me excited about this whole thing, though. If you look at our current offensive weapons and then imagine adding McLaurin to that mix, we're talking about something special. Brock Bowers is already looking like he could be the best tight end in the division. Zamir White and the running game showed flashes last year. Jacobi Meyers has been solid, but let's call it what it is. He's more of a really good #2 than a true #1. Add McLaurin to that group, and suddenly Geno Smith has weapons that can compete with anybody in the AFC West. And that's not me being a homer, that's just math. Look at what Kansas City has with Kelsey getting older and their receiver room being pretty questionable after losing key guys. Look at Denver still trying to figure out what they have at receiver. The Chargers have talent but questions about chemistry and health. If we land McLaurin, our skill position group becomes the best in the division, and I don't think that's even debatable. Now, why do I think this trade actually has legs when most people are writing it off? It comes down to connections. And if you've been following this organization long enough, you know that connections matter more than anything else when it comes to how we do business. Pete Carroll and Dan Quinn worked together for 6 years in Seattle. That's not just some casual relationship. That's a legitimate partnership where they built something special together. Quinn has talked publicly about how much Carroll meant to his development as a coach. When you have that kind of relationship and one guy needs help while the other guy can provide it, that's when deals get done. Carroll knows Quinn's system, knows what kind of players fit, and knows how to make a deal work for both sides. That Seattle connection has been gold for us in the past, and it could be again. But here's the thing that really makes me think the Raiders front office is serious about this. We tried to trade for DK Metcalf earlier this offseason. That tells me everything I need to know about what they think of our current receiver room. They know we need a true #1, and they were willing to make moves to get one. DK even said publicly that he wanted to play here, so the door is already open for big receiver moves. The money situation is interesting too. Washington is sitting at about $21 million in cap space, which sounds like a lot, until you realize McLaurin is probably looking for something in the $30 million per year range. We've got the cap space to make that work without doing any crazy restructuring. McLaurin has done this dance before with Washington, held out, got his money, came back. But this time feels different because the numbers he's looking for are getting into that elite tier. And honestly, he deserves it. When I look at the top receivers in the league, McLaurin is right there with them. He's been more consistent than guys making way more money, he stays healthy, and he produces regardless of who's throwing him the ball. If I'm ranking the top 10 receivers in the NFL right now, McLaurin is definitely in that conversation. Probably somewhere around 7 or 8. Which puts him ahead of guys like Nico Collins who deal with injury concerns. The timeline makes sense too. Carroll is on a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option. Spytech has a 5-year plan in place. If you believe the Super Bowl window is 2026 and 2027, which I do, then getting McLaurin now means you get him in his prime for the years that matter most. You're not trading for a guy who's about to decline. You're trading for a guy who's entering the best years of his career. Now, let's talk about what it would actually cost to get this done. I've been looking at 3 different trade scenarios, and honestly, none of them are as crazy expensive as you might think. The first one I heard involves Jacobi Meyers, Tyree Wilson, and a 2026 second-round pick. That's not bad considering we'd be getting back a legitimate number 1 receiver. The Meyers part makes sense from Washington's perspective because they get a reliable slot guy who they can pay less than McLaurin. Tyree Wilson gives them an edge rusher with upside, which is apparently their biggest need right now. And that second-round pick gives them another asset to work with. My personal preference would be a second-round pick, one of our compensatory 5th-round picks, and maybe Trey Tucker instead of Meyers. Tucker's been having a great offseason, and while he doesn't have Meyers' track record, he also doesn't come with a big contract demand. Plus, if we're bringing in McLaurin to play outside, Tucker might actually be a better fit for what Washington needs. Here's what I keep coming back to, though. We haven't extended Jacobi Meyers yet. That tells me something. If the front office viewed him as our long-term number 1, wouldn't that deal be done already? The fact that it's not makes me wonder if they're waiting to see what other options become available. Maybe McLaurin is that option. When I imagine this offense with McLaurin, Bowers, Meyers, or whoever we keep at receiver, and a healthy Zamir White, I get excited about what Geno Smith could do. We saw flashes last year of what this offense could be. Add a legitimate number 1 receiver who can stretch the field and make contested catches, and suddenly every other piece gets easier. Look, I know this trade is unlikely. I know Washington probably wants to keep their best player. I know we've been burned by big receiver trades before. Well, okay, Adams worked out pretty well. But you get what I mean about getting hopes up. But sometimes the unlikely moves are the ones that change everything. The Raiders have never been afraid to make the big move when they think it's right. We traded for Khalil Mack when nobody expected it. We traded for Adams when people thought it was impossible. We've shown we're willing to be aggressive when the right opportunity presents itself. If Pete Carroll and Dan Quinn can work out a deal that makes sense for both sides, if McLaurin really wants out of Washington, and if we're serious about giving Geno Smith the weapons he needs to take this offense to the next level, then maybe this isn't as crazy as it sounds. The bottom line is this: Terry McLaurin would immediately make us better. He'd give us the number 1 receiver we've been looking for. He'd make everyone else on offense better by demanding attention from opposing defenses. And he'd do it during the prime years of his career, which aligns perfectly with our championship window. What do you think? Are you willing to give up significant assets for a proven number 1 like McLaurin? Or do you think we should stick with what we have and see how it develops? Let me know in the comments.